Need a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as written.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Any public comment tonight? I don't see anybody other than, okay. All right.
No, I don't need
Does
to.
anyone want to pull anything off the consent or entertain a motion to approve the consent?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent as written.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. All right, Josh, you are
I'm
up.
sorry I'm messing with this Corey right now.
All right, well, we'll just turn it over to
I will
Mr. Rogers, and unless you need him right away.
Hold on.
No, I can walk us through that if you have the board report in front of you.
Yeah, we can pull it
At the
up on
beginning,
ours,
under targets, we did wrap up our math essential learning outcomes, and we have now adopted a new resource called Bridges 3. So this year, we went through all the ELA standards and math, selected essential learning outcomes, and then broke them into targets, which is a crash course. That's not something typically done in 1 year, but DPI had a timeline that they were supposed to have done by the end of this year, fully accessible. So, yeah, that was interesting trying to get all that done, but they did. The math resource, we do have a training. Angela Kent set up a training on June 19th, and that will be held here. They have a 90-minute training that they'll have to complete before that time. Going down to the bottom, educator effectiveness, we have 17 staff on a summer year, which is basically what we call an evaluation year, a full evaluation. We are in the process of wrapping those up and then having end of the year meetings. In order for us to have that though, they have to get their end of the year data to have their student learning outcomes. Down at the bottom under behavior systems, if you're able to click on the behavior data, you can see that there was a slight uptick in majors from 2.6 a day up to 3.2. That is a very natural progression as the weather gets nice outside. Our number 2 area for majors is the playground. So Mr. Sonntag and I have definitely had discussions in regards to tightening down, increasing some of those consequences out there. The goal for last month, though, is actually later in the report. The goal from last month was to decrease hallway referrals from 1 or under, and they did meet that goal. It went down to 0.75. We also did see an uptick. One of the big things when you say, well, what are you going to do about it? You really are trying to be preemptively positive. So there was an uptick from 42 buzzworthy awards up to 59. So staff have done a great job really focusing on that positive. Second page, I'm going to point out that you'll see a little graph in there. There'll be like a green, red, and a gray box on it. That's our end of the year data for students who entered intervention with behavior. There was a 78% success rate that students that either faded off of the intervention, so they entered onto it, and we met every 4 to 6 weeks. And if they met 80% of their points and had a reduction in referrals, they faded back to not being on intervention. To end the year, we had 11 students who were on track to fade. We just were running out of time, and we had 13 that did fade. So that was nearly an 80% success rate. In the system overall, that intervention, the goal is 70%. And what that is we know that some kids will not, and that's where you end up on track for like an emotional behavioral disability referral. But the overall goal, if you go to a training, they say the overall goal with the intervention is 70%.
70% what?
Hit that mark, and I'll say in a year 1 of implementing that is excellent. We also are scheduled to go to most of our staff on that team has already been what we would say tier 2 trained, but just part of the team, almost like a team bonding thing. Also, we are going to do a review in September with CISA on a tier 2 training. Down at the bottom, we had a buddy classroom. We had a dark dance where they had a bunch of glow sticks and dancing in the hallways. That definitely tested some of the teachers' patience, but the kids had a very fun time with it. At the end, we just had an all-school meeting on Friday. We announced the Math Olympiad teams, and one of the big facts that came out of it, we had a student for the first time ever testing like the top 2%, Mr. Pilgrim in 6th grade, and then his sister also in 5th grade scored very highly. So something that Mrs. Kent has organized for years. We talked about the hallway referrals going down. Other big things we had donuts with grown-ups, that was provided by Pace. We had our K4 concert, 5 and 6 band and choir concert. I think when we had that concert, it was another good reminder as to how a referendum and more space definitely would have answered a lot of people standing. Upcoming events, we are in the process of class lists. Right, teachers had 2 weeks where they put all their recommended class lists together. All other staff had 1 week where they could then give recommendations based on what they've seen for interactions, and then we'll go back to those classroom teachers and see if we will revamp any of them. We're also in the end of the year testing with Fastbridge. I guess there's a thing called 4K graduation. They do graduating 4Kers onto kindergarten, that's May 21st. Field day is May 22nd, and the last day is May 24th. And then we'll see the Buzzworthy Awards of students. The enrollment has stayed steady for the last few months.
Do you know when that Fastbridge data will be available?
June.
Beginning or end?
It should be this week, actually. We just have a few makeups that have to get done of students that weren't here.
Okay.
Yep.
Perfect.
But we'll definitely have it, fully for the board in that June.
Meeting.
Yep.
Good.
It'll come, part of it will come in the AGR, the Achievement Gap Reduction Report, but I always typically share the whole school also.
All right, any questions for Mr. Rogers? All right, Mr. Steinmetz.
All right. Starting out, finalized our class grid, which is where we lay out the entire school, junior high and senior high. Put together what courses teachers are teaching, and then started scheduling students. So students have been meeting with all the counselors and working on schedules for next year. Our goal is to have all of them finished, and then also we're finalize kind of some of the middle school stuff. I know in the past the middle school have not received theirs until about mid-August, so we're working on getting those out a lot sooner than that. Is our goal. Working on the hiring processes for a few positions that we have. We have a social studies position we will be interviewing tomorrow for. We did have a lot of applicants, so it took a while to sift through them. Also the girls head basketball coach, and we'll continue to monitor that and look and keep you updated on how that progress is going for that one. Teacher evaluations, set meetings with all of my teachers for this week. We should have the majority or all of them finished by Monday of next week, so teachers will have that are on their summer year will have met with me and finalized everything. Last day of school plans, put together a bell schedule as we are having a little bit of a change with our last day. With it going to a half day, we had to change our schedule a little bit so that kids can meet with all of their teachers and do their final checkouts. Working on curriculum, we'll be continuing to work on this. All of our essential standards by the end of this year will be set, except for just a couple of courses, and that's just because those essential standards from the state those standards from the state have changed, so we actually have to go through them this coming year. Now that we have those essential standards selected, teachers will work on their learning targets and also look at their resources and make sure everything is finish up the majority of our Fastbridge. Where this week we have a few students that missed. We're going to hopefully have that data for you here very shortly, but it will be available in the June board meeting. Continuing with interventions, one thing I will say, and the teachers have said from the Fastbridge data, is so far what we've seen is our interventions must have done something, because from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, the amount of gains that our students have made this year has surpassed any other year so far. So just looking at the Fastbridge data of the current students that we've tested so far, it has gone up a lot.
So when was that testing taken? The Fastbridge data?
So we take
That
it
you're
at the
speaking
beginning of the year, the
Yeah.
middle of the year, and the end of the year. So from the beginning of the year till now, the amount of gains that students have shown progress.
So have we done end of the year testing is what you're referring to?
Mhm.
Oh,
We have a few students that are still finishing up, so just the students that we so far have,
Yep,
um,
have done remarkably
have done
well.
very
Well,
well.
good job, thank you.
um,
You should have that data, Rod, with the board in June.
For the June one.
Oh,
Yep.
all right.
Yeah, we'll actually have that and be able to show you. Graduation, working on finishing all of the graduation stuff, as that is next week, and I think we got the majority of everything ready to go. And then just all of the different celebrations that we have at the end of the year here, the National Honor Society, Lions Club banquet, Scholar banquet, and then our senior dinner and graduation here to come. And then I'm gonna scroll kind of down to the bottom with our behavior update. Oh, I forgot to change from September. As
I'm
far
not
as
seeing it.
I'm not seeing
Yeah,
it.
I only got page 1.
I've only got page one and,
go ahead.
yep.
I don't know.
Page 2 is blank, man.
Oh, is there page 3?
And that couldn't be on me, but give me sharing access, Nathan.
Okay.
I sent you a
Keep
request
going
for
down,
it.
is there page 3?
No.
I don't know why it's not there.
Okay.
I was just looking at it. Alright. You should be, try to go into your email and see if it pops up. I don't know why it wasn't there. Well, I'll quickly talk about it and then I'll get it shared to you here. I will say the month of the month of April, there was an uptick in our majors. Over half of that has to do with truancy and kids skipping classes and wanting to leave the building. I think not just our seniors, but the majority, or the kids that are doing that, we have a little bit of end of the year senioritis going on. So we're trying to work with the students, keep them in, make sure they're getting to their classes and not skipping them. That is where well over half of them are. I would say about 3/4 of our behaviors have been right now is kids skipping out. As far as the academics, we don't have fourth quarter grades in yet, so I'll have those for you in June. And then I'll get that shared with you guys so you can see it here. Do you have any questions for me?
Was it ever, I have a question. Was it ever decided if sixth grade is moving over next year? You know, with the referendum that was discussed for high school, will the sixth grade be here?
Not next year,
Not
but we're
next
hoping the following year.
Not
Okay.
next year.
Mhm.
Thank you.
We'd have to get a few more classrooms
Yeah.
through
Okay.
Okay. All right, any questions for Mr. Steinmetz?
Thank you.
Okay, junior high destination imagination coordinator position. We've had a lot of success at the elementary school, and we'd like to keep this going into the junior high as well. So right now, we have a person that's interested in being the coordinator. So I'd like to get this position approved for the next school year, and we'd still have the elementary as well.
You'll have to forgive me, I'm not sure what that is. Destination imagination.
So
What is that?
destination imagination is kind of like, I would say, putting your science skills to work, and then they go and compete. Well, they have a project and they go and compete.
Yeah, it's kind of like an extra club. It's so basically you've got a team that gets selected. They meet just like any other club would, and they kind of pick their topic. And there's different variations through, kind of like a Skills USA, where like you can actually create stuff. You can do more of a play, but it's all very much imaginative. Like, and you have to come up with stuff, and it's very spontaneous too. Like some of them, you come in there and they give you a topic, and on the spot you have to basically put together like a dialogue with a group of people. There's other stuff you have to come prepared and actually build machines and all kinds of stuff. So it's very creative. It's really cool. I mean, it goes all the way to the senior year. And my kids, my daughter was in it, and I was certainly disappointed when I saw that it ended kind of in the junior high area. And I think it should definitely keep going, because that's, I think, when the kids are just getting into it and really getting excited about it, and then it kind of ends in our school. So
So the cost of that is just under $600 stipend for that, so it's not gonna break the bank.
Is that something you want to hire externally, or is that for like a
We would have
current?
an employee within district, a current employee that'd be interested in that position.
Okay.
We are gonna post internally for the elementary position next year. I don't know if have you posted that yet? Okay. So we'll be looking, I wanna say I had that on,
Is that an all-year position, or is it like some clubs are only?
I don't think it's all year.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a season, just like,
It's a,
yeah.
yeah, and I'd have to get the, are they done by winter, I wanna say?
Yeah, I mean, I
Does that seem
remember,
right?
yeah, I remember driving to state when it was still snowing out, but I think it was the end of that snow, so it's kind of like the same time Skills USA is, so that was just about a month ago, I think, so. That's kind of when it ends, but it has a season just like a lot of those do.
But they do have you can qualify for the nationals as
Mhm.
well, which would extend their season.
And we have had kids qualify in the past for nationals.
Our elementary team did.
They're elementary, so they have to, so typically, we cover, school covers a state competitions, but then the club would have to raise money for the nationals. I think kind of much same as archery.
Mhm.
But the elementary team did qualify for the nationals this year, so a lot of great things happening, and we'd like to continue that for them.
So because they didn't go, they did perform for the elementary students at our last all-school meeting last Friday.
Oh, that's cool.
Awesome.
So Josh, does that fall under 11B in motions?
That would under 11A.
Oh, sorry. I just read that. Okay.
Almost played the guitar there. Yeah, any other questions? Okay. Compensation update. Krita helped today in going through and updating our teaching contracts. As I checked around with a lot of superintendents, so we want to have them out by the 15th, so we'll put our current year salary on the contracts. This doesn't mean that teachers are going to stay at a current year salary. We will be looking at changing our salary grid. I've sent that to the board as well. We'll be high on the low end and high on the top end. How we get there has to change a little bit, so it's sustainable. So there's no employees that'll go backwards, but we'll be looking at probably that July, the work, make sure we get that correct and it's affordable and to the board approval in July. And then we would reissue the teaching contracts with updated salaries, after the July board meeting. Administrative contracts, we would be looking at June because they would end June 30th to get those approved. Tonight, what I'd like to approve, looking for later, is this would be for hourly employees or support staff. We'd look at going up 3%. To be the same as we did last year. That's correct, Sue, if I'm wrong. We went 3%, we'd like to go another 3% this year, so they know where they're going to be at this coming year. And we're ready to make that decision with your approval tonight. I can bring up, if anybody wants to see it, I know I showed you some area. Right now we're on a step and lane. We are a little low on the bottom end, as I showed you, but we're high on the top end. What's a little different is not only do we get a bump on that step, then we have a lane change. And right now, as I showed you, we're one of the few school districts that have a step and lane anymore. So most districts are not paying for credits as you go. They would give you that lane change when you get your master's. And then after that, there's not a credit increase. But our step going up would be more than the 800 than what we would be in the future. So I think that right now with what we sent you is what we'd place people on a grid. No one could go down. Is figure out what we'd give for raises, the percentage, and then approve credits and approve masters over the summers. We'd count all that going into this. And then we'd move over to that new grid, in July.
You said you sent that grid to us?
That would have been on your Friday,
Oh,
in a few Friday notes.
So I guess I'm confused on what exactly falls under 11B.
Well, we're not there yet there, buddy, but That would be, I'll show you that in a minute.
Okay.
Yep, that's next.
I was trying to follow as you went through. Where does that fit? Okay.
Yeah, so I see what you're saying is they're backwards on up here above.
As long as we
Yeah.
get there.
So any questions on compensation, how we're moving forward?
The 3%, is that a standard or was that discussed? How did you guys come up with 3%?
That's
And
what
are we fiscally able to do that?
I would say, yes, with what we're doing with some staffing changes and so forth, yes. 3% is what we did last year. I would say we did 3%, so it's 3% of the base, just so you know. So as you look at that salary schedule, it'd be 3% of the base, and then whatever that base would get added on to everybody's salary. That's the way it works for teachers as well. So any increase to the base, the percentage. So say last year on teacher's side, you did the 4107, it was a little different, 41707. We would take 3% of that base, and then it goes through and changes everybody's, but then you get the step and then you get the lane, which actually probably made it a 6 to 7% increase, which would be extremely high from what most districts are doing with the CPI around 4%.
Okay.
We were talking 2, just based on we gave a little higher raises last year than anticipated with the step and lanes and all the credits. But as we did all the area school districts, you have that kind of where they're starting, ending, and how they're going.
Well,
But
that's why I asked, because when we increased it the last time, it wasn't as presented, from my understanding. So has this been reviewed?
So yeah, so this one takes into account all the benefits. I mean, it takes into everything. Like, that's the big difference, and to make sure we can do that. I think the other thing that this factors is we're basically what Josh is stating is we're trying to get to a baseline to drop into the new schedule. The new schedule is very easy to understand. There's not so many options and weird ways that you increase and don't increase, and this is a very straightforward matrix that you end up on, which is much easier to understand, I think, for everybody, because I think even teachers like, well, shouldn't I be here? Should I be there? And I know, like, I've had questions on it in the past, and it was really hard to understand. So Josh went through and he looked at a lot of different districts and what they do, how they do it, and there was a lot of really good options. And I think from what I saw, he kind of picked from the best of what was out there, the different districts and how they did it, and kind of simplified it. And so we're getting everybody to land in the right tier for the new program. So everybody's going to land where they, nobody's going to get a decrease, right? Because some would if we just followed like their standard to start with, right? So we basically have to drop everybody into the right area on that grid to start the program, and then everybody then will increase based on the same merits and time, right? So master's degree can increase your pay, time can increase your pay. Like, they're pretty straightforward things at that point.
we also use the top because our current salary doesn't have a top on, it doesn't end, as it goes through. So we picked, after we give raises this year, we anticipate the top being, so even people at the top will get a raise, but then that'll hit our top. Now, Sue did a really good job in going through and making a great spreadsheet of where everybody's at with insurance and anticipated insurance costs, and right on through the benefits. So she's got a couple different scenarios, so thank you, Sue. But we just, before we make a decision on that, again, we want to make sure it's affordable and sustainable, so we'll go through and update those spreadsheets and plug some numbers. We're thinking at least a 2% would probably be affordable as we move forward, and that would be the goal. But then just as we move forward, we'd probably do bi-yearly raises to spread that out a little bit. A lot of districts are doing that. Some are doing, like Chippewa Falls, every 3 years you'd get a raise. It's a bigger raise, but it's every 3, and what that does is spread it out a little bit. At first, we wouldn't see an immediate impact because everybody would be like on, say, Schedule A, but then after like year 2 would come along, any new hires would be on that schedule. So then it would, the raises, the step would be every other year. If there were any changes to the base, that would get, automatically, anything to the base would just go to everybody.
Okay.
But that whole plan's coming to us next month, right?
Yeah, I would say next month, and then so we can start to have conversations, but we would like to have it approved in July would be the timeline I'm looking to have that. I'm going to meet with the elementary staff on Wednesday morning, high school staff on Friday morning to go over all that so they know. And they can, that way if they have any questions, they can reach out as well. And
Okay.
I haven't shared the numbers like tonight. I mean, we put them together as I shared with you, but before running the numbers with Sue and going through everything, I don't want, and I think it's gonna be very favorable for our staff and sustainable moving forward. And a lot less work for Sue following credits and so forth, because most districts aren't. They're just not. I couldn't find one that we're following in the area. So yeah, and I'll keep giving you updates in the Friday notes as well. And I might have took it out of this week's, but they've been in the last few.
Yeah,
If you want to check,
remember seeing it.
and I can reshare them if you'd like. Any questions on that? So again, on the compensation, what we'll be looking for is, if we go down, Rod, that would be C. So we'd be looking for a 3% increase for the support staff.
And just make sure we put
Tonight?
base
Tonight.
salary for support
Sup-
staff
yeah.
in that motion,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
And administration will be in June, teachers in July. And I've also, and why a lot of districts do this as well, as things come up in the budget. I mean, sometimes you have to put a freeze if you would approve everything now. I mean, there's no send contracts out with numbers you can't afford that locks you into going into a deficit. So that's the reason for that. Staffing update. I see last year they approved this, but we kind of, we haven't had a lot of new hires. But what I kind of want to just let everybody know, where there's going to be some movement in the buildings. So Kaylee Evergreen would go from 4th grade to 3rd grade. Sarah Rogers would go from 3rd grade to the elementary reading interventionist. Amber Haladilak, she's an elementary special education para. She would move to 4K para. Zach Cerny will be moving from elementary physical education to athletic director, blended learning coordinator. Erin Bakken, her current position, that's been a split between half junior high and half high school, same with junior high. Being that we want to work towards moving the 6th grade over, try and get a true junior high again. Ms. Bakken will teach junior high history next year. Mrs. Geiger, currently 9th grade science and 8th grade science. That position got flipped to in the past few years. She will go to 6th grade English, or ELA, but 6th grade. Aaron Pilgrim will move from business education to junior high science. So again, we'll have a junior high science teacher, and she's certified in junior high science. Things worked out pretty well here. And James Donnellan, who's doing a fantastic job in the junior high science blended learning, who is working through certification, has a business background. It's going to be easier for him to get certified in business education, so he'll move to business education next year. So we'll just be looking to approve moving those folks next year, what that would look like. Now, these were all, we haven't hired yet, but these are the new hires for right now as our next year. That would have been, well, they all should be approved now. Besides, I got a question mark on history. And like Mr. Steinman said, 22 applicants, so it was really positive. And the application, 25 after, since I looked at them. So that was. So I haven't seen that in the last year. It's been slim. I think we only had 12 for the elementary PE position. But we found a really good elementary PE person that you approved tonight as well. Any questions on next year's staffing?
When will you have the interview process complete for the high school history position?
Hopefully by the end of the day tomorrow.
Tomorrow? Okay.
That's the goal.
'Tis the season.
Yeah, we have some really good applicants, and yeah, so that would be probably looking for approval on that hire in June. Any other questions? Okay, moving along. Okay, National School Lunch Program, School Breakfast Program. Currently, we approved earlier in the year. The board approved our free lunch program. Deb Zeiss did a good job in finding, out how that would benefit us, and then we actually did save money for the district going with that program. We got a letter back in April saying that we would qualify under CEP, which is a National School Lunch Program and School Breakfast Program. And basically what that would do is if the board approves it, that all kids would be free breakfast and lunch. I'm not going to be looking for approval tonight after we did a little more research. I'd like to sit down with Sue a little more and just go over the numbers to make sure that we have them as it was presented. It looked like we will get roughly about $20,000 more in funding if we use this, but that wasn't taking in account of what we were bringing in for the paid lunches and reduced lunches. So we want to see where that number is and if we can afford it. We just got to let them know, got to have it approved by June 30th. So I'll be actually moving this for approval to the June board meeting. This is a 3-year program. At that point, if they assessed us and we didn't qualify, they would give us a year to move back into where parents would have to pay for the paid lunches and the reduced lunches. Abbotsford is currently doing that, and I know New Albany, but there's quite a few districts in the state that are doing that. I just want to make sure we get those numbers. As we were looking, I think when we left the meeting, we were under the assumption that we'd have maybe Sue was, I don't know, Sue, you might have been on the right page. Maybe wasn't. I was just seeing that we're saving, making $20,000 more based on what we get in funding, but it wasn't taking into account of what we bring in. But I'd also say we probably lose between $7,000 and $10,000 a year on unpaid lunch accounts as well, that we definitely got to take a strong look at. So if we can make those numbers work, I think this would be something that's good for our district and take a lot of stress off of parents. So any questions on that?
Does that lunch program come with like restrictions and you must feed X amount of food to X amount of children?
We would have to follow the national lunch program guidelines, which we already
We
are.
already are.
Yes.
So no new restrictions or,
Nope.
or regulations on
No,
us?
if it's federally funded, it just, yeah,
Thank you.
that's a good question. Any other questions? The one-to-one technology handbook, we had this out there for a while, and probably for a month or so on the Friday notes. Mr. Kotek put this together. Our biggest issue is computers breaking, and we basically had an insurance policy. We called it, it really wasn't an insurance policy. It was just if people paid their fund, it kind of went in a pot, and then we'd pay for any damages. I would say right now, I'd say between, correct me if wrong, $8,000 and $10,000 a year in damages. Some of these damages are by accident, we know that, but a lot of them are not. So this new policy would give it up to, getting your computer fixed twice. We looked at Chippewa Falls, and it was a $15 per student. That would just wipe away any, insurance fees or whatever we call it. It would just be something that we'd put in the pot for making sure we have a little bit to cover the damages to computers. So we're just looking at, so it was 20, we changed it down to where Chippewa Falls was at 15. They would have to do that as each kid as they would sign up, part of the school process. Does anybody have any questions on that? I only had one person reach out, so.
If they didn't pay the $15, do they not get a Chromebook?
It's a good question. I don't think we can withhold the Chromebook.
Okay.
Yeah.
What grade level does that start out for charging?
So it would go all the way down to first. Everybody's using them. And again, the goal is it's just to try to take care of some of these damages and have a little accountability there. But we would not have any kids go without a computer. But I would say major damages in there. We know if it's really, they take it home and drive over it with a car or something like that. I mean, they're not going to get a computer back until they would cover that computer. Seeing a lot of keys getting ripped off, and some there's some things that you can just tell when kids are it's happened intentionally, and sometimes things wear out, and that's okay as well. So that would be the only thing. I mean, and it's up to the board whether we even do that $15. So I mean, that's probably a big discussion point. Everything else in there is, you know, pretty much the same as what we've been following over the years. So it'd be whether or not, you know, I'd like some discussion on that, whether you think the $15 is,
There was a fee last year for elementary students, wasn't there?
It was optional, I think, wasn't
How
it?
many,
well,
did we
that,
have a lot of parents that paid?
I'd have to go back and look, I'm not sure.
Greta?
I would say no, we don't have a lot that pay.
So I think what would happen is what we've noticed is that, you know, it's $25 that we'd say, then you'd allow to fix it on your computer. If it was a big one, they want to come in and they say, well, we'll pay our $25 now.
Oh.
You know what I mean? So it's a bigger fix, and then they're like, well, we'll take that pilot, we'll do our $25 now. So this would kind of eliminate that. You are correct. I don't think there's going to be a, you know, I don't know if someone, you know, if there is a need that we're not going to hold the computer away from somebody.
Mhm.
So I mean, it's right where are we at right now? About $10,000. This would not cover our what we're, you know, current maintenance on our computers. The 15 would not.
For me, I kind of look at it very much similar to, this is part of your school supply list, right? Like,
Mhm.
you used to have to buy a calculator or whatever. I mean, things change in technology. This is very much in line with, everybody gets a Chromebook now. We didn't used to get one, but there's a cost to that too, right? And part of that cost is effectively the insurance of it, right? So we're not asking you to buy the Chromebook, but we are asking you to insure it, and I don't think that's, you know, too far out of line. Just like we, you know, require scientific calculators when you get to a certain class grade, right? They're not cheap either, but that's part of taking that, and it's part of modern education. So it'd be nice to see our budgets be able to cover that, but unfortunately, once we went to Chromebooks, it wasn't like the state said, hey, here's some more money to cover Chromebooks. They just said, do it.
Can we make it like the Aldi shopping cart and make it refundable if you don't have any claims?
No, because it's kind of, that's the way insurance works. If you refund everybody that didn't use insurance, you cannot insure anybody. Like, it's just not how insurance works. You need everybody to cover everybody, so to speak, because not everybody has an accident.
So it'd be just shy about $9,000 that would come in if everybody paid, and I'm not anticipating everybody does.
So is it a voluntary
So it'd be
payment?
close.
No, I mean, I think it is basically like a school supply list, right? Like, part of that school supply list is your $15 technology coverage. I don't know how else to state it. I know it comes in the form of a technology handbook, but, you know, it's no different than when we ask somebody to buy a calculator.
We done at open house previously, if it was seen as insurance, it was optional. I would figure most elementary didn't because they don't take them home. So there's less risk of damage that way.
Sixth grade currently can though, I believe, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think it's a ton
Yeah.
that they do. Kindergarten's kind of in the phase now, they have not had anything with those little kiddos, it's more of a touchscreen, but there is a Chromebook touchscreen option. So I know Nick in kindergarten was talking about whether they're gonna move to that also.
And a big thing, I think, is hopefully getting a little accountability. You know, there's a small investment from families, so, you know, as I talked to Mr. Kotek, we feel that a lot of these the damages are really unwarranted, and there's not a lot of accountability for that. And so that was, it would almost cover where our damages are at, but not 100%, so.
So if something happens, they pay their $15 insurance, and then something happens, they still have to pay for the cost of the repair?
No.
No, so there's 2 repairs, and as you would read through that, and what was it, page 6?
And if you get to the point where you need a third repair, it's probably not accidental anymore.
Yeah. And also, if we know it's just not, you take a hammer to it and smash it, that $15 doesn't count.
Doesn't apply.
If they smash it on the floor, that's a different story.
Yeah, so,
I have a question.
Yes.
Are there going to be any special deals for families with large families that bring in a lot of kids?
so we talked about that, Chippewa Falls does not, but that's a good topic to talk about as well. I don't feel like it's gonna make or break our budget, so that's where, you know, we just need some, yeah.
No, just a thought. Yeah.
Now, I mean, we could talk about that, I mean,
I guess I would phrase it more of families that are in need, because I think you've got a lot of families that have bigger families too that they're not in need. And it's, again, I look at like school supplies. Like, if you've got 5 kids, you got to buy school supplies for all 5 kids. And some families have 1 kid and can't afford for 1 kid, right? So I guess I would rather see it based on need basis than I would based on child count. That's just my opinion.
How do you define that?
Well, there are definite ways to define it, right? But I don't know
Are they
how
legal?
the school defines it.
Yeah,
so,
that's kind of my,
yeah.
Well, I would tell you, I didn't see anything in the past one, I would say anything like that.
from other districts, I can believe that, they just stay right out of it.
And I would say as a school system, if someone needs supplies, we make sure we get kids what they need, but
Right.
Casey, that's a good point.
I was thinking that, threw it out.
Yeah, so, yeah, so it's something to think about, so I mean, so I guess, that we could prove, so what I would be looking for is a motion to either approve this technology handbook tonight, either with the $15 or without. Do we have any more discussion on that?
I'm torn on it, I really am. I'm right down the middle on, we're in a poverty-stricken community, and to me, logistically, it sounds like it's gonna be a nightmare to manage. We've got exceptions at the elementary that don't take Chromebooks home, so the risk is very minimal, yet the people are gonna have to pay $15 for it. To me, as they get more mobile, the risk goes up significantly. But still, how do you manage that? How do you,
Well, I'd say you're correct in those terms as well. Because it's gonna be hard, and kids are gonna need the technology, and I don't, I'd say,
and the
what
kids
is
that
fair
need
there.
it the most are the ones that need the most structure, which are gonna have the most damage accrued. I mean, if you're gonna be stereotypical about it, that's kinda how it's probably gonna fall. So,
So, I mean, as we talked about it, Trita, Nick, and I mean, I don't know if we had a preference, but we would, just looking at what other districts were doing and so forth. I
yeah, I get it.
You would obviously save some money, but then, and then you run into, if 3/4 don't pay it, what are you gonna do? Keep 3/4 out of the kid with a computer? And the answer to that is no.
Yeah.
To Rod's point.
I guess the other way to look at it too is that $15 or $20, whatever we're going to do with it, has to be paid, period. Like whether we make that a student cost or not, like it's a district cost, like it's going to get paid. And so we have to budget for that either way. Doesn't matter.
For the insurance
So-
plan on the current computers, we have an insurance plan on them.
We don't. So we called it an insurance plan, but it really wasn't. It really was self-funded insurance.
So if we reclassified Chrome computers as family computers, could we levy out of Fund 80 for that cost?
I like who he looks to right away.
Well, help me understand.
Well, I would say
It's a
no,
creative question.
because they're,
Yeah.
well, they're not really, they're for the kids' use, and that's who we're monitoring. We're not monitoring family use there, so I would say it's not used by the public, just the students, so I like the creativity,
try.
but I would say, no.
Are there any grants or anything that could go towards something like that?
Not that I know of, but we could look. I don't think so.
Could we do grade level pricing? Kindergarten would be cheaper than a senior. I know you want to fill the pot up, but it would alleviate some of the concerns.
I
So
think
I guess-
that'd be
I guess-
harder to manage.
So what you have to think about though is that if they stay in district, it's the same cost either way, right? You're just pushing the cost at a different stage of their life. Like you're gonna pay it either way. That's what insurance is, right? Like group insurance is we're leveling it out, the playing field to everybody distributing that cost. Like that's literally the definition of like insurance. And so, I mean, I understand certain insurances have different premiums based on age, stuff like that, but you have some group insurance that just, if you participate, you pay this much, it's just a set fee.
So I guess my last question is, Mr. Spaeth, you and your staff are going to manage this. What would you prefer?
Well, the accountability, I want to say I think we're right at 50-50. Either way, like people are coming in as they break them and paying the $25, so they don't have to pay the big deal. So there's a portion that's coming into that pot anyways. So this is cheaper than the 25.
What do you want the motion to be? Because you guys are going to manage it. I'm not.
Well, I think, but some of you will be paying the bill,
Very true.
as we think about parents. So, we would move forward either way. I don't want to be indecisive here on this one, but it's not going to make or break our budget. I know Casey had a very good point. What do you do with the families? that are, have a lot of kids or so forth and don't have, quite frankly, have the $1,500. I guess there's no fair way to manage that.
Could there be some incentive for not having damage, not monetary, but I mean some celebration, something that the kids gain from school that doesn't cost us anything, that a little extra incentive to be more careful? I don't know.
Yeah. Mr. Rogers, Steinmetz, what's your?
I'd be interested to know the rotation, because I think that we try to get more of a life out of an elementary one, because they aren't going home. Keys are gonna be more apt to come off of one on a 5-year rotation than one that's on a 3-year rotation, so that also gets to be, I know some kids too, you're gonna have some things that just incidentally happen, it's not really their fault,
Mm-hmm.
so that would be hard to, it's almost like putting in 100% perfect attendance. When kids wanna come to school sick, well, no, I want you to stay home, but now you're not gonna get your 100% attendance. I'd be interested to know what that rotation is. I thought it was longer at the elementary than at the junior and senior high.
Junior high,
Get
junior high,
3.
it's 2 years,
2, okay.
7th and 8th grade, and
I
then,
think 6th grade is under the 2-year rotation.
are they?
Also.
That I could quote you on, I don't know on
I'd
that
have
one.
to check on that rotation.
So it's either 2 or 3 years, and then the high school is 4 years, so 4 years that you're in school.
And they can buy that Chromebook for really reduced price if they want it. Well, I don't know. I mean, Sue and Creta, you have anything to add to that?
If it were me, I would start at the middle school. I wouldn't worry about the elementary, charging them. For the most part, they don't take them home. Start at the middle school where we know that they're mobile with their computers, and that's where the damage happens, is middle school and high school.
We have very few elementary school ones.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I guess what I would ask is for Josh to take this back to his team and you guys define this. I think, I can speak for myself, I'm too far away from this to make a good decision.
Well, we can table it. It's not gonna.
Yeah.
I don't know where everybody else is at.
Yeah.
Most elementary will have eyes on it. If they damage it, you'll see whether it was on purpose or not.
Yeah, I would say let's table it for now then too, because I think there's
Okay.
still more questions and we got some time to figure this out yet.
Okay, so we'll table that one. And I can try to get some more definitive, but I think it would be the same conversation. So at the next time, whether we recommend doing it or we just take it out.
I would bring a
So-
recommended motion that you would like to pass. And
So I know Debbie's waiting
Yeah,
patiently
we need to turn and burn now.
here, so I know some people wanted to get to that concert, so I can just, I attached the tech ed plans and rendering. Everybody's seen those in the notes. Hey, Vernon. So the tech ed plan, I can go through them real quick, but if we want, what we've been working on lately, the last 3 weeks, is defining our tech ed area. I have it on the screen here on the bottom, so it's very much similar to what we would have had in our overall project, but now they're laying it out with the classrooms, the welding area, the equipment, car hoists, kind of, if you're looking where I'm at, would be here. So we've kind of come up with this plan here. So right now, that's kind of where we're probably at the end of May looking for approval right now they're gonna be getting bids and so forth. Now, what we can do on like a district office, from here on, we can use on these funds, as we talk to attorneys. We cannot use funds for this area over the high school office. We'll have to come out of, whether we, depending on where we come at the end of the year this year, if we have enough funds, or out of our Fund 46 account, we'll have to cover the safe and secure entrance for the high school, the new addition and the safe and secure entrance here. So that will not, these funds at the safe and secure entrance will not come out of that, but we do have some Fund 46 dollars we could use. So the plan would be this, let me see if it come down. If you kind of look here, as you come in, we would have a front main entrance to the school. You come in, just like the elementary, you'll stop, you can buzz to either go to the left, which would be the high school office, or the right, the district office. And then there would be a boardroom here that would meet up to the tech center. Is what we're thinking now. So we have had soil tests done for this area. Right now, they're working on electrical plans and gas And in keeping in mind what phase 2 could look like, the building would be very much set up if and when we go back for phase 2, the gymnasium. One thing we did keep that we're gonna take out is we kept that, that second floor plan that we originally had in there. We're gonna take that out. But I mean, it's usable space that we can use, so this area would all be precast, which would give us about 4,000 square feet that we can use for something. There would be bathrooms up there and an elevator that would, so we have access up to the top of the building. So that's kind of where we are right now. I mean, I think we're kind of set on kind of the original scope of work, except we moved the offices over here, figured out how we can do the safe and secure on one side, well, the main entrance. So this is where all the kids would come in. If buses would drop off kids for tournaments and so forth, we would be using this entry. So, and then the rest of the doors would be locked during the school day. So we're meeting weekly. I think we're gonna take I don't believe we'll meet till the 30th. Now I did attach, I handed out the task, there's a meeting schedule. If you wanna look through that, when we're meeting during the week and approximately, where we are in the process, I attach that schedule as well, and I can send you a link in Friday notes. So, what we gotta get to tonight is the good stuff. Debbie's here to kind of talk about, I wouldn't say mine and Sue's recommendation. I'd say Debbie's would like to go with that wraparound structure, and she could probably explain that a little better in a minute. From our perspective, it gives us leeway in, one, concentrate on paying our old debt off, but gives us leeway where we can levy, and if it's there, it limits the burden. It's almost a zero impact right now on the constituents. So we want to keep it that way, but it gives us some flexibility on that levy so we don't overburden the taxpayer, but if we can move it a little bit, then we can levy and take down that debt versus having to just increase that levy right away with the standard debt structure. So Debbie, I'm gonna let you take it away here.
So we wanted to start there are 2 action items for tonight, one specifically related to this, the parameters resolution, which I'll talk a little bit about next. But we wanted to come back to that wraparound structure. So after last meeting, I forwarded the information to Josh that I believe he shared with you regarding the difference between the wraparound and the level debt service. And as we talked about, the level debt service would net out, if you paid as scheduled, to about $920,000 less in levy over the life of the loan, if you levied as scheduled and repaid. As Josh mentioned, the goal would be that the variables would come in better than estimated, and you could levy early and repay, and could get back to this. I use the analogy, it would be similar to municipal bonds are very different than mortgages, but one way they would be alike would be if you could do payments on a 20-year loan, but you did a 30-year just to give you that flexibility in repaying, it would be similar to that concept. So that's one direction that we would like tonight. I just wanted to answer any other questions. I know Josh and Sue had said they recommend the wraparound. Are you comfortable with that approach as we move forward? Are there any other questions I can answer related to it?
Good.
Looks good.
Okay. So the most important action item is next, and it's called the parameters resolution. And what that is and does is it allows us to sell the bonds. You're going to create the parameters or approve the parameters in which we can do it. And we can then access the market and sell the bonds without having to wait all the way until your next board meeting. It also allows us to pick a target date. We've picked the end of May as our estimated date. That's when everything will be done and when we can get to market. But if the market, should that day we've picked go a little wonky, we can pause and we can pick another day. So it allows us flexibility in the market. It also then allows us to issue and then report out next board meeting rather than having to sell right at the board meeting date. So the items included in the parameters resolution, who can approve. So we've identified Josh and Sue as being able, or Josh or Sue being able to approve on the board's behalf based on the parameters set forth. It identifies an interest rate not to exceed 5.25. So current market, I just did a sale last week. It was about twice as big, but similar rating, and it was at a 4.16. So we don't expect to need to get to the 5.25, but that allows us that flexibility as we know the market will change. You'll lock in at the best rate on the day of sale. It also lays out other items within it. You'll notice it's not a typo. This references back to your April of 23 referendum because that's the one we're coming back to. It also identifies guidelines in terms of segregated account when the bond proceeds are received, and Sue already has that worked out and set up. The debt service account, when you levy and repay, has to be in a segregated account. It can be with your other Fund 39 debt, but the funds can't be commingled. It lays that out. It lays out your paying agent, so who you'll send the money to so they can take care of your payments. And then it also talks about continuing disclosure requirements. So after the debt is issued, the items that you'll do in order to make sure your bondholders stay informed on your current finances. Think of it as an annual report card you're sending to them. And so Sue's already familiar with all this, she's nodding her head. But with your approval tonight, that this is the last step we need from the board in order to move forward with the sale once the other items are done too. Did I explain that okay?
You explained it wonderfully, but what is the motion? Can somebody help me with what the motion needs to be?
It's gonna be E,
Yeah.
which is, I believe we can
Sorry,
read it
what was
as
that?
is. Letter E.
Echo.
So consider impossible action. So basically you would make a
Make a motion
to approve the resolution establishing parameters for the sale of not to exceed 99.965.
Yeah, I had Allison put in the language for us.
Did it need to have the percent too of?
No, we just have to adopt the resolution. The resolution
Okay.
is what's presented. So you're
Yeah.
adopting this resolution that's being presented with
Okay.
all of the wonderful legalese
This
in
one
it.
right here.
Yep. And I attached those in the board notes and so forth, or not, in Friday notes as well.
Oh, yeah, I opened the one.
Percent not to exceed 5.5,
Okay.
if we're lucky.
Do you want to talk about the next one, or do you want me to?
So, do you want me to start you?
Yeah, go ahead, you can.
Yeah, so the next one, I mentioned it can be termed a fiscal agent or a paying agent. They're the ones who you make your payment to, and then they divvy it up to the DTC. They divvy it up for the DTC so that the DTC can pay the bondholders. Many think that when the debt is issued, that it's one person issuing you all 9.965. It's actually multiple bondholders that own pieces of it. And so it's a very detailed process to get that money to the right place. So the fiscal agent or paying agent, synonymous terms, they take care of that for you. And so the next motion, Associated Trust is who we've assigned to your new one. It's less expensive than the one you have been using, and they provide excellent customer service. On your old issue, you have the Bank of New York Mellon Trust. And based on Sue's recommendation and the cost that Associated is less expensive. The recommendation, at the same time we're assigning Associated Trust to this one, the ask is that we move your old one to Associated Trust, so away from the Bank of New York Mellon Trust to Associated.
Okay.
And so the second agenda item is actually related to your old debt in order to accomplish that.
Makes sense.
And I
And the
believe,
fee for doing it is what I would consider minor. I believe it's $425 a year to have that service. So it's not a high cost item, $425 or $475, but it's under $500.
I know, Sue, correct me if I'm wrong, it's that you preferred moving both, working with one company,
Oh,
Yes, absolutely.
so. Yeah,
Thank you.
so any questions? And Debbie did a great job as always. Thank you. Any questions on any of that?
All right, see you later.
Okay. Well, sorry, get to work, man.
All right, we got a few minutes to pass the resolutions here. All right, 11A, consider junior high destination imagination coordinator position for the 2024-25 school year.
I'll make the motion. Or did you?
Nope, I was considering motion, so that's perfect.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Consider a motion for 11B, consider approval of staffing changes.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Consider a motion to consider a 3% increase on base of salary for support staff for the 2024-25 school year.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 11D, I'll entertain a motion to consider approval of the 2024-25 technology handbook. I believe we wanted to table this.
Yep, I make a motion to table the 2024-2025 technology handbook.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right, this is the fun one. I will consider a motion to approve the resolution establishing parameters for the sale of not to exceed $9,965,000 in general obligation promissory notes.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I will consider a
Hey,
motion.
Does that have to be roll call?
It's got
Yeah, I think-
financial.
Sure, let's do a roll call just to be safe. Karen, roll call on that.
Casey,
Yes.
Rod,
Yes.
Andrea,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes,
Karen, yes. Does Brad count? Brad?
he's here.
Never heard of him. Who's this guy?
All right. F, I will consider a motion to approve a resolution removing the Bank of New York Mellon Trust Company, N.A., and appointing Associated Trust Company National Association to serve as fiscal agent in connection with outstanding obligations.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded.
Does
Roll
this
call.
have- Thank you.
Hold on. Alright. Casey?
Yes.
Rod,
Yes.
Andrea,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Karen, yes. Bradley?
Sure.
Brad, would you like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, everybody. I apologize for running out of here, but I'm late to the game.
So,